Today, we think of Mecca as the heart of Islam, but long before that, it was a bustling, vibrant spiritual marketplace. At the very center of it all was the powerful Quraysh tribe, and their world, well, it wasn't shaped by just one god, but by a whole pantheon of them. So let's dive in and uncover who these deities were and what their stories tell us about the world that came before. All right, so let's get right to the heart of it with a big question. Did the Quraysh, the tribe running the show in ancient Mecca, have one single chief god that they all worshipped above everyone else? Well, the simple answer is not really. And the real story is so much more complex and honestly, way more fascinating. It wasn't about some divine king sitting on a throne. It was this intricate network of gods and goddesses, a whole pantheon where each one had a very specific job to do. So let's take a closer look at this religious landscape. You have to imagine Mecca as being deeply polytheistic. It was a spiritual hub, packed with gods for literally every occasion you could think of. And to really get a sense of the scale here, just think about this number, 360. That's right, 360. That's how many idols were reportedly crammed inside the Kaaba, the sacred center of Mecca. Each one for a different god, a different tribe, or a different purpose. It was a crowded house. But even in a crowd that big, one figure really stood out from the rest. And that brings us to Hubal. You can think of him as Mecca's main idol, the oracle of the Kaaba.
For all intents and purposes, Hubal was the guy for the Quraysh. His idol wasn't just stuck in a corner, it was placed prominently, right inside the Kaaba itself. That prime real estate tells you everything you need to know about his importance in the city's religious and political life.
And Hubal had a very practical job. His idol, made from this striking red agate, wasn't just something to look at, he was a divine decision-maker. The Quraysh would use divination arrows in front of him to get guidance on, well, everything. Should we go to war? Is this trade deal a good idea? He was, in effect, the ultimate arbiter for the entire city. But Hubal wasn't the only major player on the scene. Oh no. Alongside him, you had this incredibly powerful trio of goddesses, who were often known in pre-Islamic traditions as the daughters of Allah. First up in this powerful trio is Al-Uzza. Her name literally means the mighty one, and she was the special patron goddess of the Quraysh tribe itself. She was all about power, strength, and protection. When the Quraysh rode into battle, her name was their war cry, shouted to bring them courage and victory. With her own sacred shrine just outside Mecca, she was seen as this fierce, mighty guardian of the tribe. Okay, next up is Al-Lat. Now, if Al-Uzza was the goddess of might and war, Al-Lat was all about life, prosperity, and abundance. And her influence was huge, stretching way beyond the walls of Mecca. She had a major shrine in the city of Taif and was worshipped by tribes all across Arabia. You prayed to her for a good harvest, for wealth, for the prosperity of your family. She was a big deal. And that brings us to the third and oldest of these goddesses, Manat. And her domain? Well, it was something much darker and more profound. Manat was the goddess of fate, time, and destiny. You see, she represented this powerful idea of fatalism, that your life was already written, your destiny set in stone. With her shrine near the coast, she was deeply feared because her domain was death and vengeance, a truly ancient and formidable figure. So okay, we've got Hubal calling the shots in this powerful trio of goddesses. But here is where the story takes a fascinating turn. Because behind all of them, in the shadows, was another figure, Allah, a supreme, high god who existed even within this crowded polytheistic world. And this really shows you the genius of their system. See, the idols like Hubal and the goddesses, they were the intermediaries. They were physical, present, and you could go to them for your specific everyday needs. Allah, on the other hand, was understood as the supreme creator. He was singular, abstract, and way up high, too distant to bother with your request for a good harvest.
So how did they make these two levels of belief work together? Well, a quote that's attributed to the Quraysh themselves spells it out perfectly. And this right here is the key to the whole thing. They said, "We only worship them that they may bring us nearer to Allah." There it is. The idols weren't rivals to the supreme God. They were the middlemen, the divine go-betweens. They were your access points to the big guy. So what you have is this incredibly complex, tiered spiritual system that formed the very foundation of Meccan society. And understanding this system is absolutely crucial for grasping the monumental shift that was about to happen.
Let's just break it down one last time. The pre-Islamic system went like this. Step 1, you acknowledge that a supreme creator God, Allah, exists. Step 2, you worship a whole host of intermediary idols to handle your daily needs and to get your prayers up to Him. Then Islam arrives. And what it does is profound. It doesn't introduce the Arabs to Allah, it redefines the relationship with Him by completely getting rid of Step 2. All the intermediaries are gone.
And that leaves us with a final, really powerful question to think about. Knowing that this complex, multi-layered system was the absolute norm, what did it truly mean to introduce an idea that swept all of that away? An idea that said there were no go-betweens, no daughters, no oracles, just one. This wasn't just a small change in worship, it was a revolution that would rewire their entire spiritual and social world.